Gracias a todos por estar aquí. Nada, muy breve. Mi nombre es Santi. Me hace mucha ilusión estar aquí. Muchas gracias. Gracias a Disney y gracias a todo el equipo que ha confiado en mí. Tendréis traducción simultánea. Luego hay tiempo para preguntas, o sea que ir pensando. Y nada, sin más dilación, presentar a un hombre que es escritor, que es guionista, que es productor, que interpreta, como habéis visto, un papel increíble y un nominado al Emmy, la leyenda, Will Arnett.
Hello. Hola.
So Will, again, congrats on this amazing role in this amazing movie. I had a great time watching it. I laughed, I cried. It's great. There's so many things to ask, but I want to start by talking about a quote that you all saw at the end of the movie. It says, based on a true story. It all began when you met this comedian, John Bishop, years ago on, if I'm not wrong, boat in Amsterdam. Tell me about that encounter and why did this story stuck with you? Why did you want to tell more about the story?
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And I met John Bishop by chance on a boat, as you said, on a canal boat in Amsterdam at a lunch. And my friend said, "Do you know John?" And he was a fantastic comedian in the UK. He hadn't really crossed over to the US yet, so I wasn't familiar. And he said, "John, maybe you can tell me the story of how you became a stand-up." Which was that he was going through a divorce and he stumbled into a bar and he did not want to pay, and he ended up getting his name called and doing so. That part is true. So the movie is inspired by John's life, but there was something about, to me, this idea as he was talking about the first time, and we sort of tried to capture that in the film. A guy who's so cut off from who he is and where he is, and he's not communicating with his wife in no part of his life, and that he's able to go into a room, a place that he has no connection to stand-up comedy, and speak his truth for the first time. And that he started to, and I remember John telling me he started to feel better. And that really struck me. And then the part where he reunites with his wife, that's also true. She went with her new group of friends, we changed it, and all of a sudden she sees her ex-husband on stage doing stand-up, and he hadn't told anybody in his life. And she actually said to him that night, after, he saw her in the audience. He told a joke about her, in fact, and he saw her afterwards, and she said, "That guy on stage, that's the guy I married." And then they began this affair with each other. And I thought that was really profound. To me, it's funny. And so I asked him if I said, "I want to write this movie." In fact, last week I was in America and I was about to come over here. And I randomly wore an old jacket and I pulled out my boarding pass from my flight from Los Angeles to London for almost to the day. It was November 19th, 2018. And November 19th, 2018, and I pulled it out of my pocket on November 18th, almost 7 years to the day after I went over to ask him to do it. It was so crazy. Just a couple days ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that his wife was there. I didn't know that was also true.
Yes.
That's crazy. Another thing that I
think that if we had written that people would say, "Well, that's too crazy." That's impossible. And so those parts of the story are the parts that are true, that inspired, yeah.
That's amazing. Another thing, before we get into the movie, that I wanted to talk about is how in pre-production you spent weeks on the Comedy Cellar. The Comedy Cellar, for those who don't know, is one of the greatest comedy clubs in the world. It's in New York. And you went there as your character,
yes,
as Alex Novak, to perform. So I want to know everything about these weeks. Who did you meet there? How did the comedians react? How did the audiences react?
It was crazy. I spent a long time making comedic television and comedic films, but I'm not a stand-up comedian, as you can tell. And I went in there, and yeah, I remember the first time going up at the Comedy Cellar, which is, as you say, Santiago, it is a hallowed ground in stand-up comedy, where a lot of the big stand-ups that we know go still to this day and work. You can go there tonight, and you might see Dave Chappelle doing an hour, or you might see whomever, big name. And so I remember going out there and introducing me as Alex Novak, and some people in the audience in America maybe knew who I was and thought that I was either doing a bit or I was losing my mind. But for me, the assignment was to understand what it was like to go out there and be this guy. So I started going every night for about 6 weeks before we started shooting. I was going up 3 times a night. It was terrifying. To be honest, it was a really terrifying experience. And I don't know if anybody here has ever done stand-up comedy. Has anybody? No? Yeah? So it's scary, right? And it's funny, I was 54 years old when I made this film, and I've been, performing a long time, and I was profoundly scared and felt very vulnerable in that moment. And so I was just trying to relate to what Alex was going through, and at the same time, got to rehearse all these different segments of stand-up that we used in the film. And during the day, I would go home and I would write and rewrite, because we had to track Alex from the first time he goes on stage until the end, and where he's at in his life, how he develops not just as a stand-up but as a person too. So it was a weird, a very strange assignment,
But at the same time, there's something that I think is great, and it captures perfectly how a comedian grows on those few first days or first weeks. And you can see that in the movie, and it's something you do that is amazing what you do with this character, because you're a very funny guy. Like you're a movie star, and we are all the time believing that this guy has no tools and that he's really facing that. So congrats on that, because that had to be something. I mean, how did you work on that? How do you work on that vulnerability?
Well, that's an interesting, so when I was first doing this stand-up, I had to fight my instincts as a performer, because I want to go out there. Part of you wants to just win the room. I want to get the laugh. And I remember Bradley saying to me the first time before I went up, and we were standing at that door where you see Alex standing in the film, that's real. All those people who work there, Liz, who's the manager, she's really the manager at the cellar. And I remember I was about to go up, and Bradley stopped me. And he said, "We're here to do something different," meaning you don't need to go and perform and win this room. You're here to investigate Alex Novak and his experience. That was very helpful. It was a very small thing, and it really helped me, because I had to sort of fight against those instincts to, I don't know, rely on some old bit or something that I think might make people laugh. And so it was very odd.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But that's there, and it's amazing.
And also to get the sense of relief that he gets, as you say, doing the stand-up, that joy that he gets, and to capture that. We tried that scene where he goes up after he, when he goes to see his family home, and he can see the light he knows the kids are being put to bed, and he's very frustrated about his situation. And you see him driving down the West Side Highway in New York, and he has that moment when he starts introducing himself and saying, "Hi, I'm Alex Novak. Hi, I'm Alex Novak." And he says, "I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun." That sense of relief that he gets, that was really important to sort of really convey that.
You showed this movie on the New York Film Festival weeks ago, a month ago.
Yeah, at the beginning of October, yeah.
That's it. And I saw the Q&A you did after, and Bradley Cooper was the filmmaker, the director, was talking about how after a nice 10 minutes, you will talk with each other about, "Oh my God, we have to do this. We have to do a special for Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
We have to. I'm going to direct that for you." And you were all so hyped up, and then you had 10 bad minutes, and you were like, "This, we are not gonna do this again."
We
ever.
we went on a Saturday night, a very busy night at the Comedy Cellar, and went out and did some material, some stuff from the movie and some other stuff, and it was amazing. And everybody was loud. It was a great night, and we were like, "Oh, this is amazing! This is maybe I can do stand up for real, and maybe I can have a big Netflix special. Amazing!" And then Liz said, "Oh, you can go around the corner to the other space." I said, "Great!" So we went over there, just riding the high. Same material. 10 minutes later, nothing. And it was the first time I'd really like bombed, as they say, and it was very intimidating. And the only person I could hear laughing in the back was Bradley, of course, at my misfortune. And yeah, that was a very humbling.
Any chance that we can see Will Arnett's special anytime? Because I want to. Because we want to.
No, you know, about 2-3 weeks ago, I was in New York, and I really did grow to love it and love the feeling. And I know we talked a little bit, and I know that you're a stand-up, so we talked about that love of. And I don't suppose that I could do it. I'm not a stand-up, but I did really enjoy it. So about 2-3 weeks ago, I was in New York, and I texted Liz from the film, and I said, "Hey, I'm here. Can I come down at 10 o'clock tonight? Is it possible to go up on?" And she said, "Sure." So I went, and I didn't even have a chance to think about it. I had some jokes that we had written that weren't really right for the movie, so I had about 10 minutes of material, and as soon as we walked in, she said, "You're up." So I went down, and there was like no chance to think, and I just did it. And I said, I had them introduce me as Alex Novak. And then halfway through, I said, and then people sort of laughed. And I said, "Well, you know, I'm Alex Novak. I've just done this film, and I'm playing this character. So if you don't like what you're seeing tonight, I'm Alex Novak. If you did like it, my name is Will Arnett." And it's insurance, you know, to protect myself.
Let's talk for a bit about the comedians that you have here, because I knew Jordan Jensen, I knew Chloe Radcliffe. They are great. Reggie Conquest is also there, but you have also Matthew Libatique, if I'm not saying that wrong. He's the DOP.
Yes.
And he's also a comedian here.
Yeah.
Which I think that's great. Tell me, how did you choose those guys? Because it could, I mean, you know so many comedians. Bradley Cooper knows so many comedians. You could have had, I don't know, like Dave Chappelle on this. But I'm guessing that you didn't want it to become like a party of cameos, and you really narrowed it down to those that you found interesting.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We wanted to feel, again, every part of it, we wanted to feel authentic. And so Jordan Jensen is a comedian who's on the rise. She's very funny. Chloe Radcliffe as well. Reggie, amazing. The only person who a lot of people might know more, especially in America, is this guy, Dave Attell. So that was important. We had to cast people, stand-ups who were good, not too well known, but who also could, play these parts and be good actors. And that was really just Shayna, our casting director, did an incredible job identifying people, and we got so fortunate with the people who participated in the movie. It was just amazing. Matthew Libatique, who's the cinematographer of our film, who also shot Maestro and Star is Born, amongst many other phenomenal movies. I'm sure you all know who he is. That was one of those nights where Bradley said, "Maddie, you should be one of the comedians." And so we gave him a couple jokes. And he's the one with the hat, the black cap and the glasses. He's telling the joke about his Tesla. And he was way too comfortable performing. And I watched the film when he watched it the first time. Bradley and I watched it with him, and we were giving him so much grief about it. We were saying, "Oh, look at you! You're just absorbing the limelight. You really love it, But he was very game. He was great. It was
He's great.
Yeah,
he
was great.
You all are great in there.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about. The movie is great. I admire that Bradley Cooper is doing this, because his filmography is like, you wouldn't expect maybe this kind of movie after Maestro, but it also makes so much sense. And I wanted to ask about the character, about Balls. Great name. And let me tell me if I'm wrong here, but you've been friends for so long. Yeah. You were roommates, if I'm not wrong?
Yes, we shared a back house in Venice, California.
That's
and 25 years ago.
And here you are again, like playing these two friends. And I was listening to a podcast. You invited Bradley Cooper to one episode of Smartless, and he talked about how you helped him years ago when he was struggling with. He has talked about this many times with addictions and with alcohol, and you help him to get in the right path. And I don't know if something of that friendship you have was in these two roles or not at all.
Well, yeah, I think it's unavoidable. I think that from every part of this, is really. I sent it to Bradley, the script, when we were first writing it, and I said, because we were at a place where, when we were writing, we weren't sure how it was going, and he said, send it to me, and I said, just give me your thoughts, and he called me up, he FaceTimed me, and he said, I want to come in and rewrite this with you and direct it. And I think that because of the experiences, the personal experiences we've had together, and some deeply personal experiences, we have a shorthand, and we can be really honest with each other. We have been at every stage of our life, and we have a shared sensibility, I think, and it did lend itself. So when you see the relationship, certainly in the, between Alex and Balls, we didn't need to rehearse the relationship. That was something that we understood, which we were really lucky about. But what's funny is you also see it in, Bradley operated the film. He operated the camera. We had Scott Sakamoto, the great, brilliant operator as well, but Bradley ended up operating most of the time a camera. And that camera is so close. We shot in that 1:6:1 aspect ratio, the whole thing on a 40 lens. And Bradley was right there, right up on, and talking to me the whole time. And one day we'll release the version where you can hear Bradley talking. That took many hours to scrub it out. That's where the real relationship played out, was with the camera, with Bradley being so close to me. I think that's where the sort of the fruits of that understanding and that connection played out between Bradley and me in those moments with the camera, because we did have such a shorthand, and by the time we really started, once you get into that rhythm, like a lot of things just started happening on their own. We just started knowing. I knew where he would be. He knew where I was going to go. All these kinds of things. Even though everything was shot designed in a certain way, little things would happen that were a result that I think were just as a result of our relationship. Yeah.
And it shows, and it's so organic. And I've heard that the school where the first scene of the school, that's something that really happened to him.
We were writing and Bradley sent me a video of these Chinese lions with no explanation, and then I wrote him back. I was like, "Well, what the hell is
They got you when you were going to say what the fuck." They got you.
And so and he said, "Oh no, this is I'll explain later, but I'm watching this thing. It's really inspired me." And that's his daughter's school, and it's my son's school as well. And we had shooting there. I don't know. Is this thing on? So sorry. I'm so sorry. That was very cheap.
Let me ask you one more thing, and then we'll open the
Sure.
time for questions for the audience. You're amazing on this, but you have always been amazing on everything. I have a quote here about from Paul Feig that directed you in sorry.
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Thank you. I cannot believe I
Yeah.
have forgotten that.
No.
It says, if Will had been playing it goofy, it wouldn't be funny at all. The fact that he's so serious, it's just spectacular. And my question would be, do you think you understand comedy that good because you understand drama that good?
Well, you know, the truth is, when I moved to New York, I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I moved to New York when I was 20 years old. And my dream was always, I thought I was going to New York to be a dramatic actor. That was my dream. And yeah, and I know, you can laugh. I think a lot of people did laugh at my drama. But that was always the thing I wanted to do. And sometimes life has a funny way of taking you in different directions. And I ended up doing, and I've been very fortunate, and I ended up being able to work on a lot of great things and kind of moved into comedy. And then you end up getting people say, oh, well, he should do this, and they don't think of you for these other things. But for me, you know, I trained and I went to New York and went to you know, Lee Strasberg and worked in that environment. That was always the thing that I wanted to do. And then somewhere along the way, it got lost. And doing this was, for me, it was almost like I felt like a kid again. I was rediscovering my roots of what I wanted to do, and these are the things. And I think that there is a real, of course, a relationship between comedy and drama. I think that there is, for me, when it's really at its best, it's not one or the other. I always say when I wake up in the morning, I don't say, oh, today's going to be a comedy day or today's going to be a drama day. Life is complicated. Things happen all at once. And I think that certainly comedy has a way of teaching you a lot about timing and et cetera. But both those things, they can kind of work together. But anyway, for me, it was really a coming home. And I felt like I realized during this process, at 54. You know, we made this movie this year. We wrapped in April, and we just delivered it 3 days before the New York Festival. I realized at 54 how little I knew in general. And I spent a lot of time being a real know-it-all, I think, in my life. And doing this and being vulnerable in this way at this stage of my life, to me, was a real... I've said this before. Alex was going through this thing and finding this device, finding stand-up in a way that he could open up. And it occurred to me while I was shooting that I was having a similar experience performing this part of Alex and really investigating the vulnerability on a similar track. It was very surreal for me. Wow. Yeah. It was much harder than doing all the stand-up and doing all the preparation. Right. Going, to me, what was so much harder was day in, day out, trying to access that genuine emotion and really be sensitive to what this, you know, what the material was. That to me was the hardest part.
Well, I'm so happy to hear you saying all that. Questions, preguntas. Tenemos alguna por ahí, otra por ahí, otra por aquí.
It's an honor and a pleasure, and you are the greatest Batman.
Oh,
Seriously, if you've never seen Will's Batman, it's extraordinary. This is probably the healthiest movie I've seen in a long time. It's a very healthy movie. It's a very adult movie. It's something that doesn't get made very often these days, and it's also very clear that it was made by an actor who knows what he's looking for and waiting until he finds it. And also this search for authenticity, which is anybody who's been through recovery understands that it's stepping into this horrible white room of authenticity. I wanted to ask you about the process working with Bradley instead of other directors, in terms of what they could learn from him in terms of directing actors. And the other side question is, why don't people make movies like this anymore?
I'll answer it in reverse. I don't know why they don't make films like I think I'm not one to comment on the state of cinema globally. I think that we've gone through different eras, and there, commerce plays a big role in a lot of stuff. And I felt very lucky and very happy that they allowed us to. And certainly, when Bradley decided that he wanted to direct it, it helped move us through the development process and realize the dream of making this movie. We compared to a lot of movies that get made, we made it for a small budget in a short amount of time. It was really like independent filmmaking, which was excellent. Really lent itself to what we were trying to do. With regards to the first question, I think that Bradley's understanding, it's a great point. As a performer, his understanding of what it takes. Never was there a moment when we were approaching a scene or starting to set up a scene where we never talked about a result, which was really important. We knew what the material was. Of course, he and I had written it with Mark Chappell, so we knew what it was. But it was never, we're here and we need to be there. Everybody comes there equipped with what they have. All the performers, we know what the role is. We know who this is, and it's all set. He's designed the shot how he wants it to look or to play out, and then we will discover. We always said the movie will tell us what it wants it to be. And if we can go in there and behave and do those things and really listen to each other and be real. And so he really encouraged us to strip away. I mean, one of the first things that he said, and he said over and over, which was amazing, was he would say, no acting. That seems like a very odd thing to say to a bunch of actors. And yet it was true. It was like, look, we know what this material is. We have to find a way to really behave, to really listen, to really be there genuine, because otherwise it falls apart. And I think that comes from him. He holds himself to that same standard. And that's a scary place to be. We used to play a game where you'd listen to a song on the radio, and we used to challenge each other. We'd say, sing for real. You take a great song, a famous Rolling Stones song, and if you have to do it, you can't do a face, you can't change your voice, you have to just do it for real. That's scary. And it's the same idea, which is do this for real. And I think that Bradley, he would always repeat that mantra, no acting. No acting, to Laura Dern, who's an Academy Award winner. Laura, no acting. And you have to strip your ego. You have to strip everything you know. It's scary, and you feel. And there were so many days, so many moments where I thought, I don't know if I can do this. It's just vulnerable, So, yeah.
Creo que solo tenemos tiempo para una más. Creo que había una por aquí. Perdón. I would be here for hours. I mean, like.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Will. I'm a huge fan of your podcast, Smartless. So I was wondering if you could share with us how this fantastic show came to be and why you and your co-host decided to jump into podcasting.
Well, it was kind of by mistake, like a lot of things in my life, it turns out. There's a theme there. I decided I was going to do a podcast, and I told Jason Bateman that I was going to do a podcast. And he said, and then he had dinner with my friend Sean Hay. I don't know if anybody else knows this podcast she's referring to I do called Smartless, and one person. And that's fine. We only need one. And so Jason told Sean, they were at dinner, and then they called me a few days later, and they said, we're doing the podcast with you. And I was like, well, no, I'm doing my own podcast. They said, no, we're doing it together. And so we started talking about it, and then COVID hit. And so we were all at home, and so we said, all right, let's do it. And so we just started recording on our own during COVID. And it ended up being really initially a great way to kind of stay connected with each other, and everybody was around and at home, and so we could connect with people, and you know, it's funny, a lot of people, I've never actually shared this, a lot of people said to me especially during the first year of COVID, you know, or afterwards, thank you so much. During COVID, it got me through. I felt that, you know, it was a laugh and a time, especially in America. I don't know if you've checked out what's going on politically in America the last few years. It's been interesting. And people said, you know, it got us through. And the truth is, I'm sort of realizing now as I'm saying it, was that it got us through too. You know, it was a way, for us, it was a lot of fun. We got to talk to each other and laugh and kind of keep it light at a time where there wasn't a lot of light. That's how it happened. Yeah.
So
My pleasure.
Thank you, really. I wouldn't forgive myself if I wouldn't make a BoJack Horseman question.
Okay.
I know that the Oscar race is crazy, and I don't want to ask you directly about it, but BoJack Horseman, for a season, faced an Oscar race. Do you ever think about him while doing all this?
I
That's
don't.
good, that's good.
I don't.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
okay.
I'll take that.
I haven't even until you said that. It hasn't occurred to me. No.
That's great. Once again, the legend Will Arnett. Thank you,
Thank you
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. I'll follow.